Hello and welcome to the Under Center podcast. I'm your host, Dara Mar, and I am joined by only one of the hosts of the show today, Fionn Malloy. Jake has rendered himself unavailable for this show. And Fionn, I think we're starting to see a bit of a trend here.
Yeah, it's a similar scenario to what's going on with the Patriots last week. He went out for testing outside our facilities, so he has to wait 5 days before he can re-enter. But of course, we might just go ahead and cut him like the Patriots did with Cam Newton.
Hey, so are you trying to say you're the Mac Jones of this podcast?
I think I probably am. Yeah, I think I'm the up-and-coming star. He's the washed-up MVP.
And I'm the Bill Belichick, of course, is it?
The GM, coach, mastermind, and puppeteer, everything wrapped into one.
I was just going to say mostly because I'm the grumpiest. But sure, look, if you want to say that, if you want to call me the leader, I'm okay with that too.
And you squat 40 pounds. Don't know if you caught that picture of him in training camp doing squats while the lads were out training.
That's on my wall as motivation there. Now when I'm doing my squats. That's it. I just have to be like Bill. Just be like Bill. And then I'm going to make it. But this is our prediction show, our first of two prediction shows that we're going to have this week. And today we're going to focus on the AFC side of things. Fiona's given me his predictions. I have done up my own. We're going to compare and contrast, see who's going to be winning the division and making the playoffs in this 2021 season. But before we do, if you haven't already, make sure you are following us online on our social pages at Twitter, on at Under Center Pod, Instagram at Under Center Pod. We're of course on YouTube as well. Just search Under Center Podcast. And if you are watching us on YouTube right now, make sure you're liking the video and you are subscribing to the channel as well to be kept informed as to when our second show this week is going to be coming out as well. If you prefer to listen to the audio side of things, you can just go to anywhere you get your audio podcasts. Just search Under Center Podcast. You'll find us there. Also subscribe to that too to be kept in the loop for when our NFC predictions are going to be coming out. And also, if you are still around at the end of the show, which of course you should be, because why wouldn't you be? We have a special announcement for something upcoming that's quite, Fiona, I'm going to say exciting.
Yeah, it's absolutely the word I would use. Yeah, it's definitely very exciting for us and for all our listeners as well.
Exactly. I think it's definitely going to be something that everyone is going to want to be part of, but you'll have to wait till the end of the show for that announcement. But let's actually get straight into our AFC predictions. And Fionn, I'm actually going to start with your AFC predictions. So we're going to get them up here on screen, and I want you to talk me through sort of thought process as to why you picked your division winners, and also as to why maybe you've been not so high on some teams. So here we go.
So we're going to start off with the division winners. Some of them are very obvious. Some of them are not so obvious. Some of the divisions are a little bit more tight than the others. In the AFC East, I've gone for the Buffalo Bills. I think they're by far the strongest team in that division. 13-4 record I see them finishing with. Over on the other side, the AFC West, again, Kansas City, I think, is a pretty clear winner of that division. I've been a little bit generous. I think they're going to be slightly better than the Bills this season, 14-3 record. The AFC North, I think, is maybe the hardest one to pick. I think Steelers and the Browns have caught up significantly with the Baltimore Ravens, and teams have been able to put a little bit of a slowdown on Lamar Jackson. So I have stuck with the Baltimore Ravens to win this division, 12-5 record, but the Browns I have just one game behind them, 11-6, and then the Steelers a little bit behind, but I could see them pressing a little bit higher. I'm not completely convinced that my own prediction there at their record. I could easily see them flipping a few games if they get in a run like they did last season. And then over in the AFC South, probably one you might disagree with me on. I think the Colts are going to do very well this season. I have them at 13-4, similar to the Bills. That's maybe a tiny bit generous, but I definitely see them winning the division. I think Wentz will start and play the whole season. I think the running back room is loaded. I think that's going to cause teams a lot of problems. The Titans, 10-7 right behind them will probably make the playoffs as well. I'd imagine they're a pretty good team, obviously, with Derrick Henry. But the problem is, we saw in the playoffs, if you can stop that, they've all of a sudden become very one-dimensional. And I think a little bit more teams this season are going to focus on stopping him. And that's why I have their record a couple of games short of the Indianapolis Colts total record. On the other end of most of the divisions is also pretty clear for 3 out of the 4. I think the Bengals are going to have a rough season. The line doesn't look good. Joe Burrow's coming back off an injury. Only 3 wins for them this season. Jaguars, I don't like Urban Myers. I think Lawrence is going to struggle. So I think they're only going to get 2 wins this season. That's, I think, the worst prediction I have of anyone this season. I wouldn't be surprised if they pick number 1 this season. Jets, I mentioned in our previous show. I think they're looking up. I think they might do quote unquote okay this season. I have them scraping all of 5 wins, a 5-12 record by the end. And maybe the harshest, I don't know, probably you'll disagree with me a little bit on this one, but the Chargers at 5-12. 2 major reasons for that. One, in recent years, they've struggled to stay healthy. Some of that in camp, some of that of their own doing. Stabbing your own quarterback in the chest with a needle is not a great move. And also, Herbert is his 2nd year. These quarterbacks don't always take a massive step forward. Sometimes they can stagnate a little bit as defenses figure them out from their first year of tape. And then they start to progress after that. So that's pretty much the bullet points. Obviously, all the other teams slot in there. Patriots 9-8. Dolphins 7-10 behind them. I think both those teams will play only okay this year. Raiders, I don't like, but always seem to scrape wins out of somewhere with Derek Carr quarterback. And the Broncos, I think, will finish 2nd in that division, 9-8. I like the look of their quarterbacks in the preseason. I think they will at least carry in some confidence. And maybe the biggest shock is 5 wins for the Texans. I think definitely they'll beat the Jaguars twice. And it's funny how these teams under pressure can sometimes nick a win here and there. So that's why I've gone with them at 5 wins. That could be a win or 2 generous, I know, but look, I'm optimistic for them.
Yeah. Well, before we actually get into critiquing your crazy decisions on some of them, I'm just saying it already. They're crazy decisions. But I just noticed by your records that you have the Browns and the Titans going in as wild cards, but you also have then for the 3rd wild card spot, the Patriots and the Broncos have an identical record. So is it kind of the thinking behind that is it's a toss up between those two who could get the final wild card spot?
No, the thinking behind that one is I was not calculating these things as I was making my records. My records are pure off gut instinct. I did not do a deep dive analysis here. I am purely an eye guy, a feel guy, the emotions on the pitch, the kind of the players and the roster that these teams have. By no means is this an extremely accurate down to the number of yards receiving predictions. Absolutely not. But I reckon if it comes down to those 2 teams, I think the Patriots should squeak into the playoffs, which would be amazing for Mac Jones in his first season.
So you didn't do a scouting report and you gave Dwayne Haskins shit for saying he's never gotten a scouting report before.
Absolutely. I think I'll take his excuse. You didn't give me a scouting report. So how could I do any data analysis of that?
Well, as the appointed leader of this show, as we found out earlier, I gave you the criteria of what was needed to be done. I gave you the freedom to choose your own records, but I guess you cannot be given that sort of freedom again. So I guess I'm going to have to micromanage maybe a little more for our NFC predictions later on in the week. We'll see.
Why don't you just tell me where I'm most wrong at the moment, and we'll work up from there.
Okay, well, place that you're most wrong is the Chargers. Definitely the Chargers. It's the glaring sort of, the glaring issue that I have with your whole predictions for the AFC this season. 5-12 is extremely harsh. I can understand you have reservations about Herbert in terms of, second year fall, and he's hit such great heights in that first year. But I think they've done a lot to, especially on that offensive line, to protect him this year, to give him the best chance to, take another step forward in his development. Also the the fact that they have now Brandon Staley as their head coach, who is going to be, and like we say, step up for Herbert in terms of the team. He's going to be a step up for them in terms of a head coach as compared to Anthony Lynn last year. I know it is his first year as a head coach, but the things that he did in LA with the Rams, turning them into the number one defense in the league, I think he'll continue that with the defense this year. Like the things that he'd be able to do with Joey Bosa, just as well, to turn him into sort of, because the player that we know he will be, that he can be, because he's lost his way a little bit. So I think that the Chargers is, it's a little harsh, I think, on the Chargers.
In my defense, I think that's both the easiest and the toughest division to call in terms of who's going to win the thing. It's clearly the Kansas City Chiefs, but it's probably the tightest of the rest of the three teams in terms of the other divisions around the league. So I don't mind you arguing with me on that one, and I'll be interested to see both the record you reckon the Chargers will have and also where in that division they're going to finish.
Yeah, well, we'll see with mine in a couple of minutes, but like I agree with you in terms of that with the other three teams in the West, that they are sort of all around the same levels. They all have their own individual strengths, but they do have weaknesses that are going to, hamper them a little bit in terms of, let's use the Broncos. They've got such like attacking weapons, offensive weapons, but the question marks around the quarterback are still there. I know they named Teddy Bridgewater the starter, but that's the starter for now. He hasn't staked a claim anywhere. He's become the QB1, especially in Carolina last year. In terms of the Raiders, look, the Raiders, they have some weapons there too. Henry Ruggs has done a lot this offseason. Darren Waller is just a fantastic player. If George Kittle and Travis Kelce weren't the players they were, we'd call Darren Waller the best tight end in the game at the moment. And it's just the big thing, the big glaring thing for the Raiders is that defense. The defense is absolutely awful. They don't have a pass rush. Their secondary is awful. Linebackers is an issue. So they do have a lot of deficiencies. I'm mounting them more and more as I go through it. But there is those three teams around the same area, so they could all have a close record. So. And you say they will, especially with the Raiders and the Broncos record next year. The Dolphins, I find an interesting one because they were a team that I struggled to sort of nail down in terms of what are they going to do this year, because they were so close. And he was a 10-6 record last year. They just missed out on the playoffs, but that was with Ryan Tannehill, like, either starting or as the backup to get them out of jail, to get out of jail free card when Tua was struggling. Tua doesn't have that this year. So if Tua struggles, what are they going to go to? Because Jacoby Brissett is not going to get them out of jail if Tua is struggling in games. And look, Deshaun Watson may still end up at the Dolphins. We don't know. There's still, a week left until the season starts, and we still obviously don't know about the other side of things, whether he'll actually be able to play, if he'll be suspended or not. So the Dolphins defense last year was just fantastic, and it was good to see that Xavier Howard was able to patch up his differences with the team, and that he's there now as well. So he'll still be that threat there playing corner. That I think he had definitely the most interceptions on the team. I think most in the league last year. So we'll hopefully continue that too. But I can't see anyone else other than the Bills winning that division. Yeah, the North is a tough one as well, and we'll see what mine. The Bengals, I think, are going to struggle. But then the one last thing, the one thing that I'm going to have to point out before we move on to my team, and that's the Texans. I know you're saying that you think they're going to sweep the Jags, and maybe is that more down to you not liking Urban Meyer more than it is with the Texans. Look, we'll see. How Deshaun Watson may even start the season with the Texans. We don't know, but I think the team that they've amassed there with just a bunch of journeymen who can never stay on a team for too long, I think there's a reason why they can't stay on teams for too long, and I think they are going to struggle this next year. And I think 5 wins, especially, is very generous for them.
Well, I would argue 5 wins is still struggling pretty mightily. 5-12 overall record. I'm just saying, look, if you think the journeymen can't do it, I just say sometimes those journeymen who know football, right? They've been through a lot of coaches, a lot of drills. You'd be funny how you get the team on the right week. Maybe it's at the end of the season they pick up 2 wins in garbage time of teams that are already through to the playoffs, and they play second stringers. I don't know. I just have a funny feeling there's usually one team that just makes no sense every season, and I think it's going to be the Texans, mostly because of the issues they've had, and it's funny how that can galvanize a team. Before we move on to your team, is there one point that you agree with me strongly on without giving away necessarily what's going to come up? Is there one thing you think, okay, yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it on that one?
3 out of 4 division winners, I agree with you, nail on.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I bet you it's AFC South.
Well, let's find out. Let's
move on. Yes.
Let's leave any more suspense there. So that was your team, Dara. That was your AFC prediction, and there's some good teams in there, and there's some interesting playoff ramifications too there. But let's have a look at my AFC predictions, and here's mine. So, actually, I forgot. I knew. I've just reminded myself. I actually do have the exact same. I have the exact same division winners. I forgot. I thought that I had the Titans. There you go. You can see how prepared I was for this show today. But yeah, look, you can see. My records are quite similar. I have changed a couple of things in terms of placings. I think because I have the Steelers lower down, I have the Browns second. On my one, my Jaguars and Texans are flipped as well. I don't see the Texans winning as many games as you do. So, and I think the Jaguars might win a few more as well, especially with Trevor Lawrence on their center. I had sort of similar with Miami too. I think Tua is going to struggle. I think they're going to end up having a difficult record. Now, this is all based on if Deshaun Watson doesn't go to the Dolphins, and if Deshaun Watson doesn't play next season as well for the Texans too. And then look, I know I told you I had the problem with the Chargers one. I actually think quite highly of the Chargers. I think they're going to go 10-7. The Raiders, I'm just the way you I think your feelings towards Urban Meyer is sort of mine towards John Gruden. I don't see it, and the Raiders sort of handcuffed themselves by giving Gruden that 10-year contract, and you're reaping what you sow, lads, here, and this is what you're getting. You're going to get bottom of the division. So I think the Colts are going to do quite well. I think actually I have them struggling at the start a little bit because Carson Wentz's issues now, first of all, with the foot injury, and now with the fact that he's have to miss 5 days due to being in close contact to a trainer. They're important rep days for a quarterback going into a brand new team. So I think it will take a couple of games for them to, sort of get into the groove of things, because he didn't even take a snap at preseason. I'm not saying if he was healthy that he would anyway. We don't know. It was never confirmed whether or not that would happen. But, I still think that they're going to win the division too. And I think Mac Jones is going to do all right and get them a winning record, but I don't think it'll be enough to make the playoffs this year. I'm going to have the Chargers, the Browns, and the Titans as my wild card teams this year, along with the division winners. But Fionn, my predictions are at your mercy. What do you think?
Well, I don't think I can argue with you over the AFC East. We had literally the same order, and the top 3 having exactly the same record. So maybe we might put a few bets on in terms of over-unders on those teams if we both agree on it. That's very unusual. I gave the Jets a couple more wins just because I kind of fancy them to be a little bit mediocre this season. The only thing I think is going to trip both of us up is the J.K. Dobbins injury for the Ravens, because the Browns, we obviously both have them only 1 game back, and Dobbins, while he didn't play necessarily the whole season with the Ravens last year, he did come on really strong at the end. He lost a couple of reps to Ingram at the start of the season, but at the end, he was a really solid back that was heavy in their rotation. So that might be the biggest one. The Bengals, you've given them one more win. I think that's even kind of generous, to be honest. I'd be nearly taking a win off them, my record. I think they're going to be struggle pretty badly. I don't see where the talent is on that roster, to be brutally honest. And everything else, it's really hard to argue with, other than obviously the Chargers. I think on the flip side, 10 is extremely generous, where I was probably extremely harsh on them. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up somewhere around 8-9, 9-8, that kind of the new 8-8, obviously now with the extra game. So yeah, interesting how quite a lot of these, for a start, when you put these up, I thought you'd accidentally shown mine again. So that tells you how similarly we're thinking on some of these.
So did I. I had to read the top to make sure.
So yeah, I think that's quite interesting that we've landed on. Obviously, Jake's are probably all over the place, but nobody really wants to hear what Jake's predictions are because he's pretty useless at them. So
well, I was going to say, if you want, I can. Jake sent through his his order of who he thinks is going to finish where. So let's just go through. I'll start with the AFC East. I didn't make up an image now for this one, so I'm just going to read this straight from when he said he actually thinks the Bills are going to go 14-3.
Okay,
so he
pretty
thinks
close.
That the Bills are going to. He thinks that the Patriots and the Jets are actually going to share a 10-7 record. So he thinks the Jets are going to win a couple of games this year. Maybe that's
I wonder if that's based on
New
Cam
York
playing.
Bullery. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe. It was sent the same day that Cam got released.
That's true.
But the Dolphins, he thinks, are going to finish 6-11. So he has no faith in Tua at all this year. So which is unfortunate. In the AFC North, he has quite a similar record.
Wait, sorry, hold on. I wasn't paying. You said he had the Jets at 9 and something.
No, 7-10.
That's outrageous.
It's still way too much.
I don't see how the Jets get to 7 wins. That'd be incredible.
No, I know Zach Wilson has looked good in the preseason, but he's playing against a load of backups.
I thought he had the Dolphins and the Patriots at 7-10.
No, the Dolphins are 6-11. So yeah, that's pretty
interesting.
Pretty rough. Yeah. So he has the Ravens going 13-4 this year.
Okay,
so he
pretty
gives them
close.
One more win. So than what we've done. He is going for the Browns to finish 12 he says 12-6. I don't think he can add. I think he meant 11-6.
Yeah.
So we'll say. So he thinks they're going to go 11-6. The Steelers, he thinks they're going to go 9-8. So that was sort of similar to what I had them as. And the Bengals, you thought I was being too nice to the Bengals. He thinks the Bengals are going to get 5 wins this season.
Okay. So Jake has no idea what a bad football team looks like. That seems to be the underlying theme. Interesting.
You think he would? He sees one every year.
I know. Yeah, the Giants have warped his sense of what a good football team looks like, I think. No, that's very interesting. Yeah, we'll have to definitely give him a bit of slagging. We obviously won't go through it too much now. We'll give him a chance to defend himself one of these days. We might bring it up on a special episode after week 1. I don't know. We'll have to chat about that.
We'll have to. But very quickly, we'll go through the other divisions. He thinks the Titans are going to win the AFC South. He thinks they're going to go 13-4. He has the Colts 9-8. He has the Texans and Jaguars sharing a record of 3-14. So it's sort of similar to us. He doesn't have a lot of faith in those two teams, and it kind of shows in his predictions. In the West, he has the Chiefs going 14-3. He thinks the Raiders are going to go 11-6 this year. And I don't see how the Raiders are going to go 11-6.
Don't see, but you'd be surprised. But in years past, the problem has been games they should win has let them down, and not necessarily nicking games here and there. So,
well, one thing we haven't talked about as well, that should be mentioned, is the Raiders have lost most of their offensive line this offseason.
Yep. Yeah,
You know,
it's going to be significant. So we'll have to see how that pans out. That's going to affect obviously the run game and the pass game. So that could be severely limiting on all aspects of the offense.
Exactly. Now he has the Chargers going 12-5, so he thinks there's going to be a lot of wins in this division for teams. And he thinks the Broncos, and looking guys from the Irish NFL show, if you're listening now, close your ears. But he thinks the Broncos are going to go 4-13.
Holy moly! Yeah,
4-13. Now that is, I thought it was harsh with you and the Chargers. Now that is harsh.
Yeah, no, Jake doesn't know what a bad team and a good team looks like. He might well have just closed his eyes and picked these at random. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Well, look, he's not here to defend himself, so we'll just say he's a terrible predictor, and don't take any of his predictions to the bank, because you are only given the Paddy Power and betting companies your money, and that's not what you want. You want to take their money, so that's why you should listen to us, because we're here to tell you what you should do.
Hey, we didn't do too bad on our predictions last season, so we'll see what it looks like next season.
We were joint winners.
We were, and Jake was, of course, at the bottom. So I think we're seeing the trend continue into preseason predictions, not just mid-season predictions.
Exactly, and that prediction league will be coming back this coming season. Absolutely. So if you were a fan of it last year, you're going to love it again this year. But I think that's a good place maybe to wrap up this episode. That's our AFC predictions. When we have Jake back, we'll scold him a little bit as to why he came up with these terrible predictions. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to.
But before we go, we promised an announcement at the end of the show, and we are ones to keep our word, of course. So we are delighted to announce that we have set up a partnership with Horan Estates, real estate agent and rent management company. They have very generously donated an NFL jersey to one lucky competition winner. So that'll be an NFL jersey of their choice, within reason, of course. We're not getting
terms and conditions do apply.
I'm sorry to say in advance, you are not getting like the Joe Montana winning Super Bowl jersey that's being auctioned off. It's just not happening. Okay, we still don't make that sort of money for that. Like, even we'd buy that if we could. But, well, actually, maybe not Joe Montana. That'd just not be great. But you know what I mean. So we are going to run a competition on our social pages, on Instagram and on Twitter. So it will give you a double chance to sort of, double opportunity to win. So we'll give out the details on those pages. So make sure you're following us there. So on Twitter @UnderCenterPod, and on Instagram it's the exact same @UnderCenterPod. So make sure you're following us there. We'll give you the details of the competition before we come back on air on Friday for our NFC predictions. The competition will be running for a week. The winner will be announced on the day the season starts. That's obviously Thursday week. Of course, the Cowboys are traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Super Bowl champions Buccaneers. So keep up to date with our social pages and make sure you are entered in the competition, and you could be the winner of a brand new NFL jersey just in time for the new season as well. So, like, what more could you want, Phil?
Yeah, it's fantastic. They're expensive enough to get their hands on, so I think it's a great prize, something I'd be delighted to win. Unfortunately, obviously, we can't enter, but I would encourage everybody to enter. It's going to be pretty simple to do. Help out Horns Estate Agents, obviously, grow our listeners, grow their followers. So it's going to be good for everyone involved, and I can't wait to see the engagement, and I hope someone walks away with the jersey they've always wanted.
Exactly, and don't worry, I will be kept an eye out, guys, to make sure no Fionn Woolheads or Fionn Mars win that competition. Okay, and I know your family too, so
yes, I know. Yeah,
I know the names. So look,
Rian won't be getting in there sneaky.
No Reen or Brogan or no front row podcast to be winning that either. But guys, that is all the time we have for on this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you have if you want to comment on actually some of our predictions, please just comment underneath wherever you're watching the video, or get us directly on our social channels like we gave out there just a couple of minutes ago. We'd love to hear who you think is going to make the playoffs and who you think are going to win the divisions this year in the AFC. Like I said, we'll be back on Friday to give our NFC predictions. Fingers crossed we have Jake on board. We'll see if we allow him to come back by that stage. But sure, look, we'll see what happens then. But guys, until then, stay safe.